Welcome back to the Katech channel. We are all done with the Apex car, but we've got an exciting new project that you're going to love. This is the C7R project. It's a 2016 C7R Edition Z06, and it's getting just about everything that the Apex car got, plus some more. We're also adding a Magnuson 2.3 liter supercharger to this car, so it's going to make more power than even the Apex car did. So let's check out what we have done so far. The engine is in. We've already done the cylinder heads, cam, AFM delete, supercharger, upper and lower pulleys. It's basically the same engine spec as the Apex car. You may notice an additional cooler here. This is the Katech oil to water cooler. We're going to run 2 oil coolers on this car. This is an automatic, which are more prone to heat issues, so we're throwing everything we've got at it to keep the heat in check. So we're going to run 2 engine oil coolers, an oil to water Katech unit, and the oil to air ticked unit that goes in the splitter. We'll show you that later. Another thing that's different on the C7R versus previous builds is going to be the DI pump. On the Apex car and my car with E85, we're just hitting close to the limit on the DI pump. So we know that the Magnuson 2.3 liter supercharger is going to make more power than the stock 1.7 liter supercharger. So we're going to need more DI pump too. So we've got a Lingenfelter upgraded DI pump to go on this car, in addition to the overdrive fuel lobe that we put on with the camshaft, and that should be enough to supply high pressure to the fuel rail. Speaking of the Magnuson supercharger, we have that sitting right here. We've already got the pulley spec for the level of boost that we want, which is going to be around 15 psi of boost. We're going to be running a Katech 103mm throttle body on this, like we do on the stock supercharger. Normally we port the snout to match up to the 103mm throttle body, but there was not enough material to port out of the Magnuson supercharger. So we designed our own part, a new billet aluminum CNC machine snout. I'll show you that. This is the Katech billet 103mm throttle body adapter to run a 103 on the Magnucharger. We needed a solution for this, so we designed and CNC machined it in-house. We've anodized it black to match up to the Magnuson supercharger, so that will bolt right on to the Magnucharger like this and allow us to run the Katech 103mm throttle body on the Magnucharger 2.3 liter supercharger. Running the 2.3 liter Magnuson supercharger with the ticked heat exchanger system also presented another problem. TIC supplies these adapter blocks that bolt to the factory supercharger for the water inlet and outlet to the intercooler brick. Obviously they don't work with the Magnuson. Normally they sit like this on the production supercharger. These do not interface with the Magnuson intercooler bricks, so we won't be using that. We've engineered and machined our own solution, this adapter block that will be used with the Magnuson 2.3 liter supercharger, and that will allow us to connect the hoses for the ticked heat exchanger system, and it also has a port for the bleeder line to adapt to the Magnucharger. You may have noticed the car already has the ticked heat exchangers and ductwork hung on the front of it. We were just waiting for some other parts to finish this car. We got pretty far ahead before we had to stop waiting for the fuel pump. So we got as far as we could, hanging the heat exchangers and doing some of the other work for the tick system. So now it'll go pretty fast as all the parts come together. As I mentioned before, this is an automatic car, and we're not messing around with the cooling on this car. It's going to be tracked, so we want to throw everything we've got at it. So we've added additional trans coolers behind the heat exchangers on both sides. This is going to provide additional trans cooling in addition to the factory parts does have the secondary trans cooler, being a 2016 automatic car. And on the other side, we've added a matching trans cooler. And of course, the C7 automatics have the factory trans cooler in the rear, which is fed by the quarter duct. So air enters the quarter duct, goes through a duct here and through the trans cooler, and then out the tail light vents and the diffuser vents. So lots of trans coolers on this car. Of course, the other side is the diff cooler on the C7 Z06. We are up in the loft area. This is a place where we store some of the oversized parts as vehicles are in process, to keep these parts out of the way and free from any damage. As you can see, earlier we installed the ticked grille bezel and all the mesh work is done. So that'll help things move along smoothly as the final assembly comes together. We've got the ticked splitter installed, and somebody mentioned in previous comments on the Apex car that they wanted to see how the grille mesh is bonded in. We use the urethane adhesive, the same stuff that we use to bond the carbon fiber grille bezel in, and that adhesive is also used to bond in the grille mesh. We're in the front office of the car shop now. As you can see, the rear fascia has already been pre-cut for the wing bracket to stick out of. So that's more work that's already done, and we'll smooth up the reassembly process. It should go pretty fast. This car is getting the ticked harness bar, which is already installed. We're going to be installing some Schroth harnesses also. And you can see a fire suppression system already installed. Fuel system is already installed on this vehicle. Same fuel system you saw in the Apex car. It's already wired, ready to go. Nick's installing the Lingenfelter upgraded DI pump. The Magnuson 2.3 liter supercharger is now on. We've got the Katech CNC ported supercharger snout in preparation for the 103 throttle body. The adapters that we made for the tick system are on. Right now we're setting up the coil brackets. With the Katech valve covers, this one is even tighter to the supercharger, since the Magnuson is a little bit bigger. So we're going to have to unloom this wiring harness for the coils and tuck it in. Nick's over on the Bridgeport right now modifying one of the coil brackets just so we can tuck a wire under it. So that's going to be a lot of tight fitting work here. Also working on some of the tick plumbing. A lot of the hard lines are done. Just some of the surge tank plumbing needs to be done. Wing bracket is installed. Got the wing installed. Coilovers in the rear have been installed. Fuel system's all buttoned up. The wheelhouse liner will go back on after a leak check after the dyno test. Engine's getting buttoned up. Ticked cooling system is installed and plumbed. Katech 103mm throttle body adapter for the Magnuson supercharger is on. Katech oil cooler is plumbed. This is an oil to water cooler There's also an oil to air cooler. We're running 2 engine oil coolers on this car. The additional trans coolers are plumbed now. We've got one of these on each side. So we're running a trans cooler behind each heat exchanger, the add-on trans cooler in the front from the factory, and the rear factory trans cooler. So we've got 4 transmission coolers on this car. Here's another project you haven't seen yet. This is a C6ZR1. It came in for the ticked cooling system, which we're going to install, but it also has a clutch issue and it had a meth fire. So we're dealing with some of those items first, and then we'll start putting on the tick system. Dan's working on disassembling some of the parts that were involved in the meth fire. Dan, what have you found so far that has been damaged?
Well, had some kind of line, brake fluid, clutch fluid, or maybe even a meth line start a little fire against the inner fender well here. I got a melted coolant reservoir bottle, melted brake master here, and then melted carbon caps on pretty much everything. Quite crowded in here with everything going on. Fuel system, E85 sensor, everything like that. And he's got an aftermarket clutch system which has steel braided lines that have fire damage everywhere. So basically on something like this, you start making room and try to open up the area to see what you find.
Then we got a clutch issue too. We diagnosed that. And what'd you find in the bell housing there?
Exploded clutch. Don't know what kind of clutch it is, but never seen clutch disc material through the little openings of the bell housing before, but pretty surprising. It moves in and out. The pedal kind of felt weird, and we had a little clutch or brake fluid leak coming out of the inner fender well in the back there too, so trying to figure out where that's coming from, but definite clutch problems going on here.
All right.
No doubt.
We showed you this C6ZR1. This is the one that had the meth fire. It had a few of those things repaired. We replaced washer, tank, I believe, and the brake master cylinder reservoir. Some wiring and clutch line up front. That's pretty much done. Now it's getting prepped for the ticked cooling system install. Fascia's been cut for the duct work. Getting ready to install the heat exchangers and do the plumbing on that. We've got a DeWitt's radiator going in this C6ZR1, and the ticked splitter under tray and oil cooler ducting is also going on the car. The blue C6 Z06 that's getting the engine build has the engine ready in the engine build department, and I believe it's actually on the dyno this morning, so we're gonna go check that out. This is the engine for the Carlisle blue C6 Z06. It's in the car shop. As you can see, it's been built and it's on the dyno, ready for break-in and power validation testing. We started on a new project, another C6 Z06. We're doing a cylinder head repair with bronze valve guides. Dan's got it all torn down. Right now he's just vacuuming out cylinder head bolt holes. The new cylinder heads are on the car. Dan's getting the head bolts in and preparing to torque. And another red C6 Z06 that came in the shop today. Pouring oil out the bottom of the engine. Greg's just doing an initial inspection here to see what's going on. We can further evaluate where to go. It had a high leak down on one of the cylinders, so we ended up pulling the engine, and that's over in the engine build shop right now, awaiting teardown and a full evaluation. So this car will be waiting here until we get more information about what happened inside the engine. This is a C6 Z06 that came in recently for cylinder head repair. We're doing bronze guides and heads, and we're just getting started on this one. And I know everybody wants to know what's going on with the Street Speed 717, old Z06. We're still waiting on the differential from RPM on that. So as soon as we get that back and get some other projects cleared out, this will be going back on the hoist and we'll be back on that project. Moving along on the C7R Edition, we've made some changes to the suspension spec. We're no longer doing a coil over. We're back to the standard DSC Sport RT shocks. There was a spring clearance issue on the inner control arm, the inside of the upper control arm right here at full droop, and there's basically no solution for it that we're comfortable with. So we've gone back to a standard shock with the stock transverse spring. The oil cooler is mounted. This is the engine oil to air cooler. It's fed through the front splitter. And as you can see, the front fascia is on. Splitter is on. Nick had to make some custom brackets to hold the front cameras. These are for parking, not the PDR system. So we were able to move these outboard a little bit with some brackets that hold it to the grill mesh. The engine's just about finished. Once again, we've got the Katech 103mm supercharger adapter snout to the Katech 103mm throttle body to the Haltech carbon fiber intake. We've also got a Katech carbon fiber radiator exit duct installed. That's going to do it for this episode. We hope you like all this tech content. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you next time.